The exact moment the federal agents blocked the executive elevators was the exact moment my former boss realized she had destroyed her own life. I sat in the lobby with my cardboard box of personal belongings, watching the color completely drain from her face. Just 20 minutes earlier, she had terminated my employment over a minor dress code violation. She had no idea that my clearance was the only thing keeping the company legal. My name is Vivian, and I worked as the lead compliance officer for a major defense contractor. For 3 years, I quietly processed classified documentation for the Department of Defense while keeping a very low profile. My position required a rare level of security clearance that most civilians never get to see. I carried a specialized black security badge hidden deep inside my purse, because true authority does not need to boast. The trouble started when a new human resources manager named Chantal took over the department. Chantal was obsessed with corporate optics and control, rather than actual operational efficiency. She was joined by her assistant Priscilla, who carried a clipboard like a weapon and constantly spied on the staff. Chantal deeply resented my professional demeanor and my salary, which was nearly identical to her own despite our different responsibilities. On a rainy Monday morning, Chantal sent a company-wide email regarding strict updates to the employee handbook dress code. The message focused heavily on professional fabric choices and threatened immediate disciplinary action for anyone wearing non-traditional weaves. I knew instantly that the policy was a direct attack on me, because I favored tailored gray wool trousers. Everyone else wore cheap synthetic clothing that looked entirely unprofessional. Later that afternoon, Chantal marched into my workspace with Priscilla hovering closely behind her like a shadow. Chantal made a passive-aggressive comment about my slate herringbone pants, claiming they violated Section 14 of the new manual. I calmly informed her that federal compliance regulations superseded any internal human resources memo. Her smile froze completely, and she walked away with a look of pure hatred that promised future retaliation. My direct supervisor Gavin witnessed the entire awkward exchange from the end of the hallway. Instead of defending his best asset, he immediately turned around and disappeared into a stairwell to avoid the conflict. I realized then that I was entirely on my own in that toxic environment. The tension in the office continued to build over the next few days, as rumors of major government contracts began to circulate. The trap was officially sprung at 3 in the afternoon on Friday, when I received an urgent calendar invitation for room 3. When I walked inside, Chantal was sitting at the head of the table alongside Priscilla and the chief operating officer. Priscilla immediately handed me a formal termination letter, citing repeated dress code non-compliance and general insubordination. They actually thought they were purging a stubborn employee who refused to bow to their petty authority. I read the document calmly without shedding a single tear or raising my voice to satisfy their malice. I looked Chantal dead in the eye and explained that she was making a catastrophic mistake for the business. I told her she just fired the only individual capable of maintaining their primary government funding. They simply laughed at my warning, assuming I was just making empty threats out of desperation and anger. While they were gloating, a bright blue security notification began flashing on my locked computer terminal across the glass wall. It was the mandatory automated system check-in from the Defense Security Service, which required my specific active credentials. Chantal noticed the blinking light and made a mocking comment about how I would no longer need that system. Her profound ignorance regarding federal protocol was about to cost them everything. I packed my few personal belongings into a small cardboard box, while my former colleagues watched in silence. The walk through the department was filled with awkward stares and hushed whispers from people who were too afraid to speak. Gavin muttered a weak apology as I passed his desk, but I did not even bother to look back at him. I carried my box down to the lobby, knowing the countdown had already begun. I had just reached the glass exit doors when the front entrance swung open with incredible force. 2 federal agents wearing identical dark suits and official silver law enforcement pins stepped directly into the reception area. They possessed a severe military precision that instantly altered the entire atmosphere of the room. They did not ask for a directory, but instead demanded an immediate audience with the chief executive officer. The receptionist panicked and rapidly dialed the executive suite, while the agents stood like granite statues in the lobby. Because my sudden termination had bypassed the mandatory federal off-boarding sequence, The security network had triggered an immediate red flag. The government realized that a high-level secure terminal was suddenly left completely unattended without authorization. The corporate leadership was about to experience a level of panic they could not spin. The elevator doors opened and the chief executive officer Douglas rushed out, alongside a visibly trembling Chantal. The usual arrogance was entirely gone from her face, leaving her completely pale and breathless with fear. The female agent identified herself as Agent Rossi, and ordered Douglas and Chantal into the main conference room. Priscilla was left standing outside, looking completely abandoned and frozen as the heavy doors shut behind them. Minutes later, Douglas burst out of the conference room sweating profusely, and ran directly over to where I sat. He desperately begged me to return to his office for a private conversation to resolve the misunderstanding. He offered to reinstate my position immediately, along with a 15% salary increase and a senior executive title. I looked at his panicked face and told him that no amount of money could cover that disgrace. Agent Miller then stepped out of the room and delivered the final crushing blow to the remaining corporate leadership. He announced that the company was officially in breach of contract, and their $50 million federal funding was completely void. Furthermore, Chantal was explicitly named as the source of the security failure, and her professional credentials were permanently revoked. Chantal collapsed into a nearby chair, staring blankly into space as her career dissolved. I stood up and walked toward the exit without giving my former employers the satisfaction of a final glance. Agent Rossi followed me outside and handed me a discreet business card embossed with a silver government emblem. She calmly explained that the Defense Department still needed the compliance work completed, and they preferred working with true professionals. She offered me a direct position overseeing the transition, which meant I was effectively upgraded. As I drove away from the building, I felt a profound sense of clean and absolute relief wash over me. The petty kingdom that Chantal had tried to build using wardrobe manuals and high heels had completely collapsed in minutes. They were left to scramble through the wreckage of their own making, while I walked away completely unscathed. True power does not come from corporate titles or enforced compliance, but from knowing your own worth.